This is a special presentation of Overtime, brought to you by Bruns Goodsviller, the right choice for your next construction project, and by FCN Bank, building stronger communities, member FDIC. And now, part 4 of the Riley Gaines series.
Let's move away from swimming just a little bit. You know, I think about when you talked about that exact moment, you and Leah standing on the podium, and you had the confidence right then and there to speak up, to say something. Where do you think that comes from?
I think a few things. First and most importantly is definitely my faith. Just knowing that, I guess really knowing that the battle has already been won, it gave me this sense of like serenity and kind of reassurance in the fact that who cares what attacks I face? I just didn't really care. And I have my parents to thank for that. That's another big part in why I felt comfortable, is because I've got 2 parents who taught me how to, think for myself, how to call out an injustice when I see it. Very fortunate for that. And the fact that my dad told me, which when I told him that he was in the locker room with us, my dad was that dad. He said, I'm coming down there. He said, come open this side door. I'm coming down there and I'm going to handle this myself. To which I had to say, Dad, we already have 1 man in the locker room. We don't need 2. And you'll go to jail.
Right.
So I've got this. It was kind of just more so I didn't want him to be in jail.
Sure.
Is why I spoke out. And again, playing sports, it uniquely prepared me in a way that I wouldn't have thought,
Right.
but it uniquely prepared me to be able to stand firm. And I will say one other thing that looking back now that I can draw the parallel to is COVID.
Yeah.
Like I said, we dealt with this. We came back my junior year. We dealt with the social distancing, the contact tracing, the mandatory vaccines and the mask mandates, which how many of you have seen a swimmer in the water wearing a mask? No, but they certainly tried. We essentially waterboarded ourselves every day. But they did. They told us, you have to get the vaccine. Mm-hmm. To which it never sat right with me. I'm like, well, first of all, no one's going to tell me what I have to do. But second off, like, I've already had COVID. I'm young. I'm healthy. I have, the antibodies, which I was led to believe this was the best and most natural form of immunity. I don't have to get the vaccine. Right. They said, yes, you do, Riley. You're the team captain. You're going to be hurting your team if you don't. And you're supposed to be a leader. Don't you want to lead? Of course I do. But I'm not willing to compromise on this. And they said, well, we're not going to let you travel. I remember specifically they said, we had University of Alabama the next week. They said, you're not going to go to this meet if you don't get the vaccine. To which I understood mandatory it doesn't actually mean required. It doesn't actually mean law. And so I said, okay, knowing I was my school's best swimmer, no, I didn't get the vaccine, and yes, I got to go to University of Alabama. So, but in a weird way, that was really the first time I learned how to stand up to authority figures,
Sure.
Which prepared me again to do it, again, in the same kind of gaslighting, emotional blackmail tactics they used. It prepared me my senior year to say the same.
You were talking earlier, and again, going back to you and Leah, and you talked about how ironic it was that you both would actually tie all the way down to 1/100th of a second. You called it divine intervention. Expound on that a little bit. Why you?
Yeah, I ask myself that every day. Why me? But it is, again, for perspective here, measured down to the 100th of a second. Anyone can get their phone out and just on a little stopwatch, try and stop your phone at less than even a 1/10 of a second. It's nearly impossible. A 100th is not even a fingernail. It's not even a blink of an eye. So to go the exact same time, I think it all had to happen in that way.
Sure.
The trophy incident, for them to say, well, to explicitly say, we have to give the trophy to Leah when pictures are being taken. I mean, all of that, it sounds weird to label that as perfect, but it was the perfect way to highlight the insanity, the concerns that so many people have had about this topic, this debate competing at the highest level, the highest stage, the pinnacle of our sport. This man who, again, couldn't kick it with the men, dominating. I mean, it was just like, it was like a South Park episode.
Right.
Or like a Babylon Bee headline, or like an SNL skit that had just become reality. And so I think, in asking the question of why me, it's because I wasn't going to sit by anymore. And again, it's not because I'm the only one who thinks the way that I think.
Sure.
99% of us on that pool deck agreed that this was wrong, unfair, and harmful. But they're terrified to say it. They weren't willing to risk their future jobs or their careers or friendships. And I will say all those things that they told me would happen never happened.
Right.
I haven't lost any job opportunity. Actually, the dental school, when I called them, when I realized that, maybe dental school isn't for me right now, I called them and I'm like, hey, very vague. I hadn't disclosed to them what I had been doing or what I had been speaking out about. So I said, hey, something in my personal life has come up. I might have to put dental school on hold. And they said, Riley, we know who you are. We know what you do. We know what you're fighting for. And they said, we love what you're fighting for. They said, understand, dentists are a dime a dozen. But you, the voice that you have, that's not a dime a dozen. Dental school will always be there for you. We'll hold your deposit. We'll hold your application. Whenever you want to come back, you have a spot here.
Awesome.
That's not what they told me was going to happen.
Right.
They told me I was going to be ousted. But again, to be received in the way that I have has just been, again, it's opposite of the narrative that they push.
Sure. So you make that stand, and undoubtedly your life has been a whirlwind ever since. Give us a peek behind the velvet rope. What's a typical day like for you now?
Gosh, typically I'm on a plane just about every day.
Yeah.
But today I was actually home before this, and so I drove up from Nashville, which let me just tell you.
Tell me.
Well, first of all, I forgot my outfit. And so I'm going to a wedding tomorrow, and so this is the dress that I'm wearing to the wedding tomorrow.
I was thinking, I was like, man, she must really like us Batesville punks, boys.
No. I put my outfit I was gonna wear in the dryer to get all the wrinkles out, whatever. Left it in the dryer. Of course I did. Then on the way up here, the air conditioning of my car stops working. So if you're wondering why my hair is like a frizzy mess, it's because I sweat for 4 hours straight on the way here. Which again, I kind of thrive in that. I kind of like it, to be honest with you, living in like the chaos of it all.
Sure.
But really what a day looks like, I do a lot of advocacy at the state level. I mentioned Congress and the Senate, the federal level, what's going on with Title IX, certainly doing everything I can there to combat that. But it's important that, I think more actually important than the federal level is what is going on locally and at the state level. Those elections matter so much more than who we put in the White House. I hope you all understand that. So be very mindful. I don't know if this is like C3, C4 status, so I'm not going to tell you to go vote or anything on that nature, but be sure to research if you are to go vote, because it really, really does matter. So now 24 states, pretty much all of which I have been involved in, have passed some sort of fairness in women's sports bill, which is huge. 25, hopefully soon, there's a bill sitting on Governor Sununu's desk in New Hampshire that he has said he will sign, which is good news. Now I have developed and helped implement a bill called the Women's Bill of Rights in 8 different states, which is, I can't even believe it. It's a bill that codifies and defines the word woman in law. Yeah. Well, you all are clapping while we have a sitting Supreme Court justice who can't even answer that question because she claims she's not a biologist. Which, guess what? I'm not a veterinarian, but I know what a dog is. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's no surprise that this is the same Supreme Court justice who a few weeks ago in an interview She said she felt like our First Amendment rights were hamstringing the government. Precisely. That is precisely what our First Amendment rights are supposed to do. That's why we have the Bill of Rights, and if our government can't understand or abide by that, that's precisely why we have the Second Amendment. So no shock there. So doing lots of that. Just met with Governor Landry of Louisiana this past week. He just signed the Women's Bill of Rights into effect in Louisiana, which is great. Tennessee, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Idaho, a few others, Arkansas. So that's been a big push of mine. This lawsuit with the NCAA, that's certainly taken some time. The whole month of June, actually, I have been on a Take Back Title IX bus tour.
Okay.
And I mean like a literal bus.
Bus.
Like a bus with my face on it. And I will tell you, I had the opposite reaction to seeing my face on the bus as Kamala Harris did to seeing her face on a bus. I was like, oh gosh, what is this? But it's been pretty cool. We've gone coast to coast, border to border. Just last week, we were out in Montana, then we went to Salt Lake City, then we went to Vegas, then Arizona, just spreading awareness, urging states to, the community, whether it's elected officials, what have you. But as I mentioned very briefly, I know I'm long-winded again, there was a big win today in the state of Indiana, something that I have worked alongside the attorneys general of these different states, 6 states, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. You guys have a phenomenal attorney general. You really do. But a big win. A federal court issued a preliminary injunction saying that, and the ruling was incredible in the way that this judge said, outright, there are 2 sexes, male and female. What the Biden administration has done to Title IX it's abolished Title IX as its original intent. And so now those 6 states and 4 others, Montana, Louisiana, Idaho, and Mississippi, do not have to comply to this, which is huge. Yeah.
So you talk about the big win here in Indiana. I have to ask you this. Leah did not get a big win last week.
No.
When you got forward, when you heard about that decision, what was your immediate reaction and response?
I mean, this is a victory, not just for women and girls, but again for common sense, for objective truth, for biological reality. So the ruling that he's talking about, Leah Thomas has been in a legal battle in the courts of arbitration for sports, suing after the NCAA championships. World Aquatics, or FINA, came out, created a policy that said, if you've transitioned past the age of 12, then you can't compete in the category that does not align with your sex, which was a bold first step. I don't believe it's satisfactory in the way that it's encouraging people to transition before the age of 12.
Right.
I think that's criminal, to say the least, but it was a bold first step. They were the first ones to do it. So prioritizing fairness over inclusion, bold first step. Leah Thomas immediately said, I'm suing you because I want to compete in the Women's Olympics. But the court ruling this week, they stood firm in that decision, and they said, you have no standing. You can compete in the Olympics, but you can compete in the men's category. Actually, they even went as far to create an open category, a third category for Thomas to compete in, to which he said, that is not enough. I don't want to compete unless I am trampling on women. We hear a lot, what about the third category? That is why a third category will never work. There is no compromise that is enough for what I would describe this cult, because it truly feels cultish. So,
talk to me a little bit about your foundation.
Yeah. So I recently started the Riley Gaines Center, which has been another thing on the plate. But it's been super cool because really what this is something that I wish I had when I was kind of thrust into this position. I didn't have the resources to know, even how to talk about this issue.
Sure.
I still very much use what I thought to be the kind and respectful pronouns, the biologically incorrect pronouns. I still referred to Thomas as a biological male. If I can give you any encouragement, stop saying biological. It's just male. He's just a man. Because when we add that prefix of biological, even if you don't know it, which is how they want it to be, they want it to be subconscious, you are subconsciously admitting that there's an unbiological alternative to being a male or female or a man or a woman or a girl or a boy. And there's not. God created the only distinction we will ever need when he created man and woman. So be mindful there. I didn't have the support. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, clearly. And so this is what that is. It's a training program to help train and develop leaders, whether that's school board leaders, community leaders, national leaders, of course, young female athletes. We have been able to tell the stories of many girls now. One girl just right here in Illinois, a young girl by the name of Abigail. She's, 15, 16 years old. A boy, actually 2 men, grown men, like 60-year-old men, were changing in her locker room at the YMCA, where her swim team, girls as young as 5, 6 years old were undressing as well. The girls felt uncomfortable. They went to their coach. They said, "Hey, can you do something about this?" He said, yeah, I've got it. Of course, he never did anything about it. So the girls got together. They put signs up in the locker room that just said, women's spaces only, to that nature. The girl got kicked off her team and banned indefinitely from the Young Men's Christian Association. Got banned indefinitely from the YMCA. So we're able to highlight this. Lots of stories just similar to that. That's what the purpose of the center is.
Awesome. What's next?
Oh, day by day.
Right.
I am, really just praying that God leads me where I need to be.
Right.
I have people ask me all the time, "Are you going to run for something?" I am not that crazy. I still have at least a little bit of sanity. God bless the people who do, because we need you. Wonderful mayor here. Thank you. It's amazing. We have good people in good positions who are able to foster and create a wonderful community. Really, this makes me want to pack my U-Haul and move up here. It really does. I'm getting AC in my car before that, but
wait till you have the
amazing.
chicken.
Yeah, exactly. I met another man who is running for a state rep here, which is amazing. We need those people. They're so important.
Sure.
Could not be me, at least for now.
So when you look back over everything, the grand total of everything, what are you most proud of?
Gosh, I think really what I am most proud of, and it took me a while, like, as I said, it took learning, it took understanding. I don't think anyone necessarily expected a 21-year-old at the time to know fully how to be able to have this conversation, especially on the national stage. But I will say I am proud of myself now and just how confident I have become in this topic in the face of even the screaming protesters in San Francisco. Like, there's a lot of things that scare me, but a man in a dress will never be one of them.
Right.
It just never will. And so to just be able to really stand tall. Again, I do believe I've always been a leader in my own right, but this feels different. Like, I think even with a gun to my head, you could not get me to use a sentence saying her male genitalia. No, it's his male genitalia. I don't think a gun to my head could change that. And so, again, it took time. It took learning, being able to adapt and quite literally roll with the punches. But now I feel so secure that I bring it on, anything my way. I'm ready for it. So.
Next on the Riley Gaines series.
We reached out to all of our participants that are here, and they submitted their own questions.
First one. Someone in the audience said, "How do we make sure the laws are made and enforced to protect women in sports, public restrooms, etc.? And which elected officials have the power to make those laws?"
Yeah, this is an important question. I thought that. I really did. But I realize now that having an R by your name does not mean that you are actually on our side.